The following episode of Educated Discussions features topics such as the following: suicide, self-harm, abuse, depression, and mental health. If these topics are sensitive to you, we ask that you please consider skipping this episode. Welcome everyone to another Educated Discussion. I'm Elmo alongside
Felipe.
And we're at Felipe's house. And Felipe, do you have any feelings?
I have some feelings.
Like, do you ever think to yourself, like, man, life is rough?
Every once in a while, sure.
I mean, you told me a story about work today that might come into play. Have you ever felt like just your mental state is not where it should be?
Thankfully, it hasn't gotten to that extent, but I could see that happening to certain people.
So I want you to keep that in mind as we go through our very first episode of a new series, title pending.
All right.
But I just want, there's a game that, it's called Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. I can't even say the title without like kind of laughing.
You brought this up in one of our past podcasts.
Yeah, this was a game that, and I remember you had this comment as you noticed the games I was mentioning and the, hey, how to survive after E3. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you noticed a lot of the games I was playing were like, you said something along the lines of, seems like a lot of the games on your list are ones that are very unique and go about telling a story in a way that wouldn't be possible elsewhere.
Okay. That probably sounded better than how I worded it, but okay.
It was pretty much that.
All right.
You pretty much made that statement.
Educated.
And one game I think that does that incredibly well is Dead Space, for example.
Okay.
Currently being remade.
Oh, I can't wait, boy.
This definitely ticked that box for me in that this is a game that could not work in any other medium. I'm sorry, this is a storyline that could not work in any other medium or be as effective. Like if this story were a movie, it would not work as well. If this story were a book, it would not work
It's the literature club, so this better be a great story.
And this is also a game that I know you, other than your trolling, possibly, you will never play this game.
No, I've heard great things on it, and I heard it's one of those like unexpected ones. So it did pique my interest, and I was interested. But I'm like, yeah, you're right. I probably will never play this unless there's just nothing happening, and I just have nothing else to play. That would be the only time. But it just defeats the purpose.
So this, I would say, this podcast is for people like you who are like, hey, I've heard about this, or hey, I want to know about a game that like really does something cool. But I'm not going to put the $15 in because it's $15 on the Switch.
Oh,
it was on sale like if you pre-ordered it on the eShop, and I had those gold coins they have on there.
Yeah, you mentioned that you got it for like $6 or $7 or something. Okay.
And it's
nice.
It's something that I'm sure will be on sale at some point. It's free on the PC. If you haven't played it by now, you probably won't. So if you want to know what this game's about and be on the lookout for their future, software.
Okay. You think there'll be future iterations of this?
We're going to go some places, man.
Okay.
We're going to go some places. Now, I'm not the most well-versed in this game because I only just played and beat it as of last week.
Okay.
Mid-July.
This is fresh.
This is very fresh. And it's a game, I think this game came out like 2018 for people. But the Switch is a whole massive new audience.
Right.
So,
and it sounds like thankfully you weren't spoiled on it.
People, there are certain aspects that I'm like, oh, that would have been cool to not know. But we'll get into that.
Okay.
So, Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. This is the Switch version.
All right. Real quick.
Yeah.
Is this going to be spoilers?
There's going to be everything spoiled.
Okay.
So this is for people who want to know what this game was all about. And for people who I think should be on the lookout for the future work that this team puts together.
Gotcha.
So, Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, it's a visual novel. Now, Felipe, have you ever played a visual novel game before?
I have not.
I haven't either.
Oh, all right.
So, for example, I'm trying to think of an equivalent. Like, what's an anime you would say is like, that should not be your first anime?
Oh, boy. Death Note.
You're right. That's probably not a good one to start.
You'll be so lost so quick.
I would say I don't know if you've ever heard of Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Oh gosh,
it's on Netflix. Actually,
you have told me about this show.
That's probably another one in that category. You don't start with it. Go watch Dragon Ball. Go watch One Piece or something.
So I did. No, Pokemon. Well, anyways,
yeah. This is that version. This is the video game version of that, or the visual novel version of that. Like, this should not be your first visual novel game, because it plays a lot with the archetypes and trappings that one would come to expect. Now, this game was put out on Steam with, like, I don't believe very much fanfare. It was just placed on there. It was free, and they said, hey, here's a game. Doki Doki Literature Club. So
if that title doesn't grab you.
So I'm honestly so envious of people who like, because I've played like Ace Attorney with the Phoenix Wright games. I've played Danganronpa and 999, which are all visual novel like, but they're not like, I'm an anime guy, gonna go meet some ladies.
Okay.
And this is that game.
Oh. All right.
If you could do me a favor, Felipe, what I think would help you a lot, and a viewer, I'll put this on the video for the video version for them. Would you be able to look up an image on your phone for me?
Sure.
I would love for you to look up the Doki Doki Literature Club characters. I feel like seeing these 4 ladies, because they're the only characters in this game.
Really? Isn't this like a school?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I got some. Oh god, these are some very
no way you won't find some crazy fan art. I'm sure.
Yeah. No. I got safe search on. No, I don't. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm looking at these.
Right. Mind if I see? I feel like
this is what I have.
Good
I'm waiting.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
Right.
I want to get a slightly higher resolution image.
So,
this works.
Can you let me see it real quick? Okay. So that's the one I'll try to put for the YouTube audience.
Okay.
So you are going to be going through the oral version of this game, as in I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to go down.
Okay.
So again, spoilers are abound.
Sounds good.
Okay. So you start by naming your character. Now, when you play video games, do you name the character after yourself?
Normally I do.
Okay.
It depends, but more often than not I do.
Okay. I've actually gone away from that recently.
Okay.
And it really works. There's a great moment that I'm going to tell you about later. But you start by naming your character, and then all of a sudden you are placed in this just... Here's a screen. Here's a screen.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at a house. There's some text at the bottom. Then on the Switch is way too small. Like they had a lot of space. They could have made the font size bigger.
Okay.
But you just hear about like, it's like, oh, your annoying friend coming to bother you. And the girl that is coming to bother you is this young lady on the left.
Okay.
That is Sayori. There's no voice acting in this game.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
There's no voice acting. You are reading the whole game.
Okay.
So Sayori here, she's like your best friend ever since you were kids.
Okay.
But like you used to walk with her every day to school, but then like she was waking up way too late. So it was annoying to wait for her. And she's like, "Oh my god, are you going to join a club?" And this is very like, "Oh, it's Japanese like school."
Yeah.
So like I would imagine like a lot of like the My Hero Academia and the like is in your head right now. Sure. I want you to like think from that perspective.
Okay.
And you go to school. It skips right to her coming to you after class, and she's like, "Did you decide what club you're gonna join?" And your dude's just like the most generic, like you don't ever see his face, but your character.
Oh, I'm a dude.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You're a dude.
Okay, gotcha.
You are the most generic, like, "Oh man, I don't know what I want to do. I'm just gonna join the anime club." And she's like, "Would you please come to the literature club?"
Okay.
And you're like, "Fine, you stop annoying me."
I feel like this is a bad decision.
She's like, "Stop annoying me. Fine, I'll go with you." And then there's all these 4 ladies on the screen. Okay. And those are your other club members. And they kind of, your friend here kind of guilts you into joining the literature club. And this guy doesn't
want to join? I mean,
no. He mentions, he's like, "Oh, if I join this club, I could get to meet these ladies."
Intelligent. So smart.
So, like, I went into this game, like, not knowing much, just knowing there's something.
Something happens.
Even when, like, they revealed it for the Switch, I was like, I'm not going to look at this trailer. I want to know nothing, because they might say something. And they did. Knowing that this is a psychological deal is... Yeah. is already telling you too much. I wanted to go in as blind as possible.
Okay.
So then it's decided, every day the club meets, we're going to read poems to each other. So we're a literature club. We write poetry. Mm-hmm. So you get to do this little mini game where these three girls, not the one in the middle right.
Okay. So
this girl, I should tell you their names. This is Sayori.
Okay.
We're starting from the left. Then Yuri, Monica, and Natsuki.
Okay.
Okay. So one more time: Sayori, Yuri, Monica, Natsuki.
Oh boy. And
you get their personalities real quick. Like Yuri's the shy girl, and that's your best friend. And then Natsuki is like, I'm the short girl who's like very vocal. Like you can imagine that trope. Yeah. Like these are the most tropey characters you could ever imagine.
All right.
So again, you're just going in thinking like, all right, this is going to be some nonsense. Which girl am I going to like? Mm-hmm. So, and then when you don't actually write poetry, you just pick words. There's like a list of like, let's just say 20 words. And every time you pick one, a new set shows up. And each girl likes a different set of words.
So depending on what you select,
it'll skew the poem. Like one of the girls is going to like your poem the most.
Gotcha. Okay.
And you never get to see your poem. And but you'll notice it's only to those three because the class president, she's not someone you can woo in this scenario. Because a lot of visual novels...
This is the class president.
Yes. Here. A lot of in visual novels, it seems to be, I don't know, I don't have too much experience, but it seems to be on, what girl are you going to get to fall in love with you?
Right.
So you go and you get to show them your poem that next day. It goes right to the next day at the poetry club.
Okay.
And guess what? First of all, who would you write a poem for first?
If I had to choose?
Yeah, if you had to choose.
I mean, I go for the loyal one, the best friend.
Okay, going for the best friend.
Yeah, man. I mean, she's been there.
That's
all
a
my
good
life.
decision. Yeah, she's the one who got you in this situation in the first place, and I did the same.
She introduced me to these ladies,
and I did. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I did the same. I was like, fine.
Wait. Oh, okay. So then you knew who you were.
You can base it. You can base it off of like it's
personality.
Like yeah, cupcake or depression.
I was gonna bring that up. I'm like, I don't know if it'll get that obvious, but apparently it does.
It's super obvious.
Okay.
Like, I barely knew these characters, and I could get who I wanted.
Okay, gotcha.
So every day, there's 3 days.
High challenge.
Yeah. There's 3 days, and you write 3 poems, and it's just like the most like, ooh, I liked your poem. Ooh, I didn't, based on who you made it appeal to, and it's just very like This is a game that I honestly think takes a little too long to get to the good. Mm-hmm. But I believe it's like at the end of day 2, your best friend asks you like, hey, if another one of the girls has to walk home with you, like, would you do it? Because you always walk home with me.
And your best friend asks you this? What's your name again?
Sayori.
Sayori.
And you can tell her like, no, I'd still walk with you. I'd walk with someone else.
Oh, so that you get to choose what you have to say.
Yeah. Okay. Very rarely there are dialogue options.
Okay.
Very rarely.
All right.
So you can tell her whatever you want. And she'll be like, oh, well, they're really nice, so I'm sure you still would. Mm-hmm. So you do your poem that day, and it's day 3, and they're like, oh my gosh, the school festival's happening. We have to make our club look as great as possible.
Okay.
And every day you're like reading these poems. Like you get to read the girls' poems. You don't get to see yours. But every day,
even though you select the words,
you never see your poem. You just see their poems.
I feel like that comes into play later, but okay.
And their poems. I was like, because I'm an English teacher, and I was reading. I'm like, okay, I get the like. There's some. I'm getting some like meanings, and I was like, that's. I'm like, there were several points. I'm like, that's a decent poem.
Okay.
Like it made me like be like, wish one of my kids wrote that well. Sometimes, sometimes they do though. So then you get to the school festival, and Monica, like, she's like, all right, everybody, we're going to read each other's poems. And you realize, oh, your best friend's not there.
Sayori's.
So she going to be Sayori. She wasn't there. But no, I'm sorry, but she leaves early.
Oh, okay.
She leaves early.
I'm sorry, This is the day of the festival.
This is the day, this is the Friday before the festival.
Festival being Monday?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
And
she leaves early.
She leaves early because she like read your poem, and like she's like, you could just tell like she has feelings for you, and it's like overwhelmed.
Hell yeah. All right.
So you then can decide, who do you want to help set up the festival with on the weekend. And you get to pick between these 4.
Oh.
But if you pick your best friend, they're like, oh, well, she's helping the president. So there's already a 2-man, there's a 2-lady team. They don't need the extra hands.
Okay.
So and if you pick the president, it's like the other girl's like, but you already have like Sayori.
Yeah.
You don't need help. So you only are stuck with these 2 options. And whoever you pick is going to come to your house over the weekend.
Ooh.
Scandalous.
Study group.
No, you're going to make some like, with the Natsuki girl, you're going to make cupcakes. This girl, you're going to make like decorations.
All right.
So how invested are you so far?
It sounds like a story I've seen before, especially very, very common anime tropes.
And there's a lot. My issue is like it takes. There's a lot of reading before you get to this point.
Okay.
So I wouldn't blame you for like people for like bowing out
Right.
at this point. So you pick who you're gonna help over the weekend, and then you go home and you're like, oh, I want to go check on my best friend, and she's like, oh, I heard you were helping so and so. So who would you pick? Just to make this easier for like storytelling purposes, who would you pick? The girl Yuri or Natsuki? Does the cupcake girl with the pink hair or the decorations girl with the purple hair? I'm gonna let you live this game.
I'm gonna live this game.
Yeah. Who you got?
What was the shy girl's name?
Yuri.
I'd probably go with you.
I did the same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're the same person.
Just because I felt like she was more unique because the other one was just like the vocal short girl. Like I've seen that in so much.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, okay, I'm good.
Okay.
I actually spent like the least amount of time with her in the beginning. Like I never wrote a poem for her, and she let me know. She let me know. She was like, "Oh, I think his poem sucks." Like she would just tell you that. But what's kind of cool is each girl has like their own style of writing.
Okay.
And I was like, she actually like, oh, okay, I get.
They put a little
Like,
thought into it.
like hers is super Natsuki, super simple. Monica, the president, plays. She like really plays with like the spacing of a poem, like just one line by itself. Like you can read it differently. I'm like, oh yeah, that's like.
Okay.
There's something to learn about poetry from this game.
All
actually,
right.
Hers is just super deep, Yuri, and then you kind of got to balance with your best friend.
Okay.
But guess what? You're saying you can go check on your friend, and she found out. As I was saying, she found out. Oh, I heard about you, helping
With,
one of your
Yuri.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
You picked Yuri. That's
Yeah.
why. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
I heard you're helping out Yuri. He's like, oh, you heard about that? And she's like, yeah. And then like she's like, you could tell she's upset. And then you ask her like, hey, girl, what's wrong? And she's like, she goes on this like very like heartfelt story about like how she suffers from depression. And
Her and Yuri are best friends now.
And you know how, like I mentioned, like she like wakes up late for school. That's why he doesn't walk with her.
He wakes up late for school?
So remember I told you Sayori, your best friend, like used to walk with her to school every day, but you don't anymore because she wakes up too late.
She wakes up too late?
She wakes up too late.
Oh,
so
okay.
sorry if I misconstrued that,
Gotcha.
she's the one. But she tells you, like, the reason I wake up so late is because, like, I just don't want to get out of bed. Like, I don't see any purpose in, like, going through the day.
Some rough stuff.
She's like, but then, like, I know you're actually enjoying this club, so I'm going, like, and I'm trying to, like, everyone seems so happy. So, like, why wouldn't I go? Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, well.
Good thing I chose you.
Yeah.
Trying to make you happy.
So you do your little, like, you picked Yuri.
As the person I'm helping, yes.
So you, like, it's, like, the most, like, generic, like, oh, I need some help. Like, oh, you have such great handwriting, blah, blah, blah. But then she's like, oh, I have this really cool knife collection. And she pulls out this knife.
Okay.
And then your character looks at it and, like, pokes his finger. He's like, ow, that's really sharp. And she's like, oh my gosh, like, why did you do that? And then she licks your finger. So this immediately got weird.
Right.
She licks the blood off her finger. She's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, that was so embarrassing what I just did. And your guy's just like, don't worry about it.
I'm about to start poking my whole body.
I'm going to go get get some supplies.
Okay.
And then when you come back in the room, you notice, like, her character, like, it says something about, like, she pulls her sleeves down really quick as you walk in.
Oh, she's a cutter.
So, like, we just got the depression talk, and immediately I'm like, oh my God, that's why they focused on the knife deal. Because, like, she's always wearing long sleeves. So, like, you get the idea, like, oh, this girl probably is a cutter.
Okay.
But at this point, like that, those are the only two hints of anything going
It
on.
looks like all these girls got long sleeves.
Yeah, but they have their out of school outfits.
Okay, gotcha.
So then you go to the end of like your day together, and it's a very nice time.
Sure.
And she's like, then Yuri, as you are at your front door, for her to leave, she's like, I'm so sorry, I have to go. And then there's like this like moment where she's like, I just want to tell you something about like ever since you joined this club, I've really enjoyed your company. And your guy's like, I would like to do this more often. So you're going to get a date. But then your best friend shows up.
Right that second? At that
Yeah.
moment? Oh, jeez.
And she's like,
Drama.
oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you guys or anything. And Yuri's like, don't worry about it. I'm just leaving. Have a great one. It's like an awkward goodbye.
Okay.
So then your Sayori girl, she's like, listen, I have feelings for you. I just need to know, like, is that going to go anywhere? Because I know you're hanging out with this girl and like, I get it. So you can, but you're my best friend. So I just want what's best for you. So now you can answer, I actually love you. Or you can answer, you'll always be my best friend. So what would you say at this point?
That's a decision right there.
And at this point, you're still like, oh, okay, like, like that's, are you going to do that to your best friend? Because you know what she wants.
She wants to suck the blood.
No, that's
That's
Yuri.
Yuri. Yeah, I know. Well, out of those two options, if the whole point was me trying to woo her, then yeah, I would probably do the love one.
And then so you love her back.
Correct.
And you get this moment, you're like, oh, we're gonna, we're boyfriend and girlfriend now. So,
But you just agreed to this date. Right?
No, with the Yuri girl?
Yeah.
No, that was just you setting up the, like, you never got that far in the conversation.
Gotcha,
She interrupted before that.
Okay, gotcha.
So now you're like, oh, I'm gonna see, and you tell her, okay, at the festival, we're gonna walk together.
All right.
So you walk up, so you go to the next day, it's Monday, it's the festival. And you and the president are the only one who get there first.
Okay.
The club president, Monica. Right. And she's like, oh, we're all gonna like, we left some example poems out on the desks. And you're like, oh, like you'll notice Sayori here, you didn't walk with her to school.
Right, because she wakes up.
She always wakes up late.
Right.
So you walk to the festival without her. And then you're like, hey, what's this paper? Like, what's this poem? And she's like, oh, that's Sayori's poem. She left it here over the weekend. And you read it, and it's just like a whole page full of get out of my head, get out of my head, get out of my head, get out of my head. And then you're like, something's wrong. Like, I shouldn't have left her.
Right. So
you go to her house. You like leave the festival. You go to her house. And it's like, okay, you're like thinking to yourself, man, this is our first date. Like, I shouldn't have left her. I should have walked with her. We're boyfriend and girlfriend now. And you go into her room and you find out she's hung herself.
Okay.
And like the way that they shoot it, like, no, that's a poor choice of words, but the way that the camera angle works and everything, like just with this visual novel, it like hits you like, oh my God, this girl is dead.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, sorry, with the visual novel, is there any kind of animation?
No.
So it's just images.
Right.
Okay.
But you get like some like screen effects with when you notice like she's dead, and it plays like this super eerie music.
Okay.
And
okay.
And then like the game starts like glitching out, and it goes back to the title screen. Like you see all the logos, and it goes back to the title screen. And then you look at the title screen, and she's not there anymore. It just shows the three girls, and then so you go, and all of your saves are gone. You can't load or anything, so you go to new game. And the game starts over. But it doesn't mention anything about her. It just mentions like, today's the day to pick a club and you don't know which one you're going to pick. So it's like she's completely gone
baseball
from
club,
existence.
just baseball club, get out of here while you can.
So at the end of the day of school, Monica comes up to you and she's like, hey, you want to join our literature club? We need one more member. And you're like, you're a pretty girl, sure. And then you go through pretty much the whole game again.
Is the guy not questioning what just happened?
No.
Okay, he's just like, here's the new day.
The game has restarted.
Okay.
And she no longer exists.
Okay.
She's never mentioned. But then you get to that same part with the festival.
Uh-huh.
And when in
So
terms
you still have to choose who you're gonna help in
Yeah.
the weekend. Okay.
and then you'll see it says Yuri, Monica, and Natsuki. And no matter what you pick, and if you try to like change like the dialogue option, it keeps going to Monica. Because throughout this time, she's been mentioning, "Oh, I want you to help me." Like, "Oh, you never write a poem that I like," and all this. So then, like, eventually, like, the game's like glitching out again, and it won't let you pick anyone else but Monica.
Okay.
And then the girls start like using explicit language throughout this, like how like using F-bombs and everything, like
where it wasn't there before.
It wasn't there before. And throughout this second replaying, Monica's been like, "Oh, well, you know about Yuri. I hear she's, she's really into those knives." Or this girl, she's really malnourished, the Natsuki girl.
Okay.
So then this is when the game's like, "Okay, you're going to help Monica." But then Yuri freaks out. She's like, no, he's going to help me. Like, you don't need help. Your job is so easy.
Yeah.
You're just printing out stuff. Like, I'm making decorations. So you go to help Yuri. You're still in the classroom. Everyone leaves. And then she's like, I don't even want to repeat it, but she says some pieces on there that I don't feel comfortable saying on the mic about how much she loves your poetry and what she wants to do with your poetry. So
it gets, like super sexual?
It gets incredibly sexual at that point.
So more than just the blood.
Yeah.
I understand.
So then she takes a knife and stabs herself.
I feel like that wasn't escalating to that, but okay.
and
I love you so much.
She's like, I would die for you, and kind of deal. So then, like, the game's like frozen, and it's stuck on this image of her like dead on the floor.
Okay.
And the knife is still there and the blood is there. And then you like, there's an option for like, if you've seen dialogue before, you can skip it. And that was when I'm like, okay, well, the game's not letting me do anything. So I skipped the dialogue. And then like, I spent like a good, like maybe 3 minutes of nothing. And maybe that's an exaggeration, but it definitely felt like about 3 minutes.
Okay.
But like, it's becoming nighttime and daytime and nighttime. And you'll notice like her body's like slightly decomposing. The blood's getting drier. And then like,
and you just can't do anything.
You can't do a single thing.
Okay.
So you're just looking at this happening.
Okay.
And then Natsuki comes in because it's Monday now. She immediately just vomits. Like you get this one quick image of her vomiting, and then she leaves the room. And then Monica's like, "Oh dang it! I didn't realize that doing what I did would break the script." And you're like, "What do you mean you broke the script?" So then you see in the corner, everything's like glitching, and then it says like Yuri deleted, Natsuki deleted. So then it's and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but this is when it's revealed that Monica this whole time's like been self-aware that she's a video game character and has been like trying to get the other girls to harm themselves in order for them to be less appealing to you. But since you're still, because it's a video game where you're supposed to get them to fall in love with you, because the game is programmed to make you want to like be with one of them and you can never be with her, she's just been getting like more and more jealous.
And it's coming up with ways to make them, like you said,
make them harm themselves or like say something they shouldn't say. And whenever like there's several times throughout the game where like whenever the font changes, like something's weird's going on, and you find out like whenever there's been a font change, that's been like Monica messing with the video game script.
Okay.
So then the game like is just her staring at you, and it's just her being like, "Oh my, like I'm programmed to fall in love with you," but the creators like couldn't get my programming to work.
She's telling you all this?
Yeah. So she's telling like the developers couldn't, like every time they tried to make me a romance option, like the game was glitching out. So they just decided to remove that capability for me. And she's like telling you like, "I'm so glad I deleted the characters out of the game. Like now it's just you and me." And this really cool moment. Like I don't ever name like anymore. I don't name my characters like after me anymore. Especially like Japanese ones. Cause like
sorry, I'm sure you mentioned it. Did you this time?
Huh? No.
Oh, you didn't? Okay,
no.
Okay, gotcha.
But there's a great moment that because it's on the Switch, you know how you have your profile name? She's like, "Oh, I bet that's not even your real name." And she says your real name because it's on your Switch profile. Like that's how I figure. I'm like, "Oh, that's how they got that." But there's that really good moment. She's like, "Well, I bet your name's really like blah or something."
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, "Oh my god, what?" But I realized, I'm like, that's a good trick.
Yeah.
That's a really good
That's
trick.
some like Kojima stuff happening right there. Nice.
So then, here's where the game, like, you can't do anything anymore. Like, it's just her staring at you, and occasionally she'll have new dialogue. And it's like...
So, she's just staring at you, and all of a sudden, by the way, here, like, just all of a sudden, dialogue comes up, and you start reading it? Do you hit X to continue to the dialogue, or does it come up and disappear on its own?
It appears on its own, and then you click through it, because you have to read it.
Gotcha.
And it's just about her being like, you know, all those poems I was writing, I was hoping you would get the hint. And, like, I've gone back to those poems, and they're totally about, like, how self-aware she's becoming. And one of the Yuri poems it was about a raccoon and how it always wants to get fed. So she keeps cutting bread every night to give the raccoon food. I'm just pulling one of the poems right away. But, like, that poem is about, like, self-harm.
Okay.
And I looked at it with that lens now, and I read all their poems over. And I'm like, oh my God, these were, like, about, like, their, like, mental states at the time. Yeah. And I was like, it's, like, awful.
Okay.
Like, awful poems. And there were several, like, there's times where I'm like, well, I don't know, I guess the game's done. Like, you can't do anything. Because I quit the game and I go back in, and it's just her staring at you with occasional dialogue showing up.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do.
Okay.
So then, this is where the game works better on the PC than the Switch.
All right.
Because if you go into the game on the Switch, there's like a fake desktop and everything. So like let's just pretend we're playing the PC version, because that makes it a little more logical.
Okay.
Because why would there be a fake desktop on the
Real quick,
Switch version?
Have you seen this desktop this whole time?
That's just like when you start the game, like you can pick like, oh, options, or
Gotcha.
and there's like other options.
Part of the UI.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But not when you go in the game. Like, sorry, not when you click start. You click like to start the.
Yeah, then it just changes to the images
Yeah.
and stuff. Okay.
And you can start like, and this is where it works better on the PC. You can start messing with the files, and depending on what you delete, you can change what's going on. So if I deleted Monica from the game,
okay.
So then when you load it back up, it's like her freaking out at you. Like, how could you do this to me? All I did was ever want to be with you, and I loved you.
Yeah.
And I'm stuck in like this world that we can't be together. And this was like the only way we could be together, and you're ruining it. So then the game like glitches out and resets, and all of a sudden you're back at the start, but now Monica's gone.
Right, because you deleted her.
Yeah. And the game just has those three.
Okay, so they're back.
So then you discover. So then Sayori, your best friend's there. She's like, "Oh my God, it's great to see." The game starts the exact same way.
Okay.
And she's like, "Oh, but I'm the president now, and whoever's the president, it's like they get the self-awareness apparently."
Oh.
So she's like, "So I know everything you did, and I know I killed myself." And it seems like whoever is the president is like overly possessive of you. So she starts taking Monica's traits. And then she ends up like, she's like, "I would die for you," and immediately just kills herself in front of you.
This
and then the
Sayori
game, yeah,
does this. Okay.
And then the game glitches out again, and then you have to delete a bunch of files in order to make the game like workable again.
Okay, interesting.
I know it's a lot. I just threw it.
Yeah, no, I get. I'm
it
just
took
trying
a turn.
I'm trying to see how there's an ending to this, but I assume you'll get to that.
So once she kills herself, like Monica shows up. She's like, "Hey, I'm still here, so I'll try to help you." And then the end credits play, and and this is the only time there's actual voice dialogue.
Oh, Monica shows up.
Yeah.
After what?
Just because the game glitches out because Sayori killed herself again.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So it's her like talking to you. She's like, "Hey, like some of me's still in here. You didn't like. There's still a file that allows me to be in here. So I'm gonna fix everything for you so you can still play the game." And then she like is talking to you throughout the credits.
Okay. Interesting.
About like, she was doing everything for you the whole time.
Right.
And the whole time I'm just like, dang, like it hit like really strong because they do a really good job at making her like seem like she's an actual person.
Gotcha.
Especially that moment where she like says your real name.
Yeah.
That just got me. That was like, that's when they hit me. I'm like, that's a really good little trick they just did. And then the game like is over, and then you can restart it all. Now there's ways to get other endings, but they're incredibly like vague, and I wouldn't have got it without looking it up. But there's a certain way you could do it where like eventually what you can do is like if you bear with me here, you go through the 3 days and you write all the poems for Sayori. You save the game and then go to a new save file and write all the poems for Yuri.
Okay.
So you pretty much, you don't get to the point where Sayori kills herself.
Yeah.
And you do that for all 3 girls. And then you go through like the normal ending that I just described to you. And then Sayori has the self-awareness, like, thank you for, like, giving us all like affection and not trying to be like biased towards a girl.
Yeah, giving us a fair chance.
Yeah. And she's like, I'm aware of everything you did, but so just thank you.
So I'm sorry, who was saying this?
Sayori now, because she's
okay.
like the president now.
Gotcha. Oh, okay, right, because you go through the end.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So you find out the whole game is like this bugged character that gains self-awareness.
Gotcha.
And the only way to defeat her is to delete her from the game. Like she was deleting the other girls. And
then she's still not really deleted.
Right. But then she sacrifices herself so the game can restart at least. So you can still play it.
Gotcha.
And there's a lot of her dialogue is so like brilliantly written. Like her telling you, like she's like making fun of the game. She's like, none of these classrooms are like this in Japan. I don't know why the creators did this. Or she's like,
it's funny.
She's like, no, girls like the ones in this game, like they don't exist in real life. Like, why is this appealing to anyone? Mm-hmm. Like girls are never just this like willing to like tell you all their secrets and everything, right, and so easily won over. She's like, how is that enjoyable for anyone? So there's just a lot of that kind of dialogue, like her poking fun at the genre.
Okay. But
her like still like making sure you're aware that she's in love with you.
Was this a Japanese studio that made this?
No.
That's why.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So then you get, and what's cool is when you get that like best ending where you spend all time with 3 of them, you get like a message from the creator where he's like saying like, I like to make games that like challenge conventions and everything. So like, I hope you enjoyed this and everything. And like, it was just really like, I was like, I appreciated this experience you put me through. Cause a lot of it, I know it's hard to like sell the horror part, but there are a lot of parts like when I saw like the girl like decomposing in front of me, like it hit really well with just like still images. Like it does it really well for what seems like a small budget.
Yeah.
And I was like impressed the whole time.
You said you looked up how to get this alternate ending. Did you actually do it yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
That's how I got like the message from the developer and everything.
Would have been cool if Monica interacted with the developer. Just a little something like.
So
yeah, it's kind of cool that he does this. Or something. I don't know.
So what you do have in the Plus version.
What is
this? Is Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. So for the Switch version.
Switch. Okay.
I guess it's on the PC as well. There's like prequel stuff.
Okay, so
and it's just about the 4 girls like before they joined the club and how they got to know each other. And it's all just you reading through their prologue history, like before the club officially started. And it's just like especially as a teacher, a lot of it's just like so realistic, like the problems these girls are going through. Because she tells you about her depression, she tells you about like the self-harm or the malnourishment and everything.
Okay.
And Monica, you like find out like what she's supposed to be like before she gains self-awareness.
Right.
But every time you beat one of the side stories, there's like 12 and let's just say 8 in total.
Sorry, the side stories in the extra content or in the game? Okay, in the extra content.
Yeah.
Okay.
But every time you beat a side story, you get an email. Because on the
fake
desktop you get an email. So I don't know how they did that and do that for the PC version.
Right.
But every time you're getting an email from like one of the developers, like you're getting emails from them to each other, like complaining about like Monica and everything.
Interesting.
And
this wouldn't happen on the PC because the Plus is only for the Switch, or is
I'm assuming it's also on the PC version as well. But you're learning that like the developers, and this is where it really goes out of the way. Like you're in. I think on that podcast that we mentioned before, you said you're interested in that abandoned game.
Yeah.
Because of like
the controversy around it and the weirdness. If
you're into that, then you will be into this because everything in those emails seems to be pointing to the fact that the developers maybe purposely made Monica messed up in this way because they're using the AI programs or something to like.
Well, obviously they made her this way in real life, but you mean like in the narrative that the story is shown that they're presenting, the fact that It's kind of hard to.
No, it's
It's
dude,
a weird way to.
I ended up
but
having to like look up online, like people are like piecing together emails and everything and trying to figure out who said what to who in the emails.
Okay,
and going
so
super Kojima level with like the trying to figure it out.
right. Okay, so clearly, this is the way the game is designed.
Yeah.
Okay, but
But
the
in the
narrative they're
is
showing
that,
is okay. So then I did interrupt you. So finish what you said. So what do you think?
so the narrative seems to be that the developers were purposefully messing with Monica's programming in this way to try and like create like a something far more diabolical in terms of AI,
Okay.
and that's what apparently their next game is going to be about. So you're getting all these hints at like their next game through like emails of like Monica and how they made her and what like her purpose is.
Well, if the game you said 2018 roughly, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
If the game's 3 years old already
Mm-hmm.
and they just re-released this on Switch just with that extra content, from what it sounds like, the content isn't super substantial.
No,
Um,
it's just you reading about
and if
very
and if,
well written
right,
character stories.
and if that extra content is alluding to potentially another game,
Mhm.
I feel like that they did that obviously purposely.
Yeah.
And they are teasing the new game.
Mhm.
I don't think that's part of the narrative they're setting. I think it's one of those like weird Inception things where they're like, yeah, that's the narrative, but that is our narrative.
There's a narrative within the narrative,
Right.
pretty much. And it's just
So-
like, this is what when you would mention like, hey, you seem like you want to play games that are like doing something different. That may have been the actual quote.
Sure.
This game is doing something I've just never seen before. And I
Right.
know I've been going for like, I don't know how long now,
Yeah,
40
it's-
minutes.
Yeah, close to
But
40
like,
minutes.
I just had to tell someone about like the journey my brain went through.
All right. Well,
went
I
through
mean, I hated everything that you just said.
Perfect.
I didn't enjoy any of this conversation. No, that's crazy, man. I for some reason when they said that this game goes places, I just thought it was going to be super horror because clearly with the aesthetic that the game has, very cutesy, very anime, bubbly, bubblegum kind of fun thing. So I'm like, oh, one of these is a killer.
Mm-hmm.
One of these is a crazy murderer, and they'll use. I don't want to spoil the show. Oh yeah, you haven't even seen it yet. Dang it! Gotta watch more stuff. Like when a show suddenly gets extremely. Ah man, never mind. I don't want to spoil it.
Okay.
Sorry for taking on that rant. But pretty much, a show looks like it's gonna be, for those that know what I'm talking about, Invincible. So for when a show looks like it's gonna be one thing,
It's something else.
and it's completely something else. I thought that's what it was. It's like, oh, they're clearly setting up this cute aesthetic. It looks like a simple, like you said, you meet some girls, you're trying to get with them and stuff, and then it gets like horrible, and they got crazy violence and just details and stuff that you didn't expect to see. That's what I thought this game was. I like that a lot better. Yeah. So that's crazy, and of course, like I said, I probably would be a very long time before I even got a chance to play this game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad that I didn't get to experience that myself, but I probably wouldn't have. So regardless, it's still impressive, and it's a great story.
Like, think
to
about
hear.
this game for the first person who like just said, I want to play Doki Doki Literature Club. And like, this is what he was given.
Yeah.
You know it was a dude.
Yeah,
90% of them were dudes. And it's just like, I'm so jealous of the person who went into this 100% blind. And got to experience
It's not
that.
like what you said. Like when they first put it out, it doesn't sound like they really.
No.
And maybe that was just their test. Like, hey, budget's kind of
But
small.
you could even pay, it was free.
That's what I'm saying. Budget's small. There's no paywall. Let's just see what happens. Let's let word of mouth. Like, clearly they know they made something special there, and for them to confidently put it out with no fanfare or price a paywall, that's exudes confidence. So the fact that they were able, and it took some time, like you said, it was one of those like kind of word of mouth things.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it was worth to them in the long run, and now they're actually charging for a game that was once free.
And I can't like sell like a lot of the dialogue without like spending more time here.
Of course, you did a
like,
great
or
job.
reiterating, but like a lot of it, like especially as someone who works in a school, they felt so realistic. A lot of the problems they were going through and everything, and like it really like I never cried or anything.
Yeah.
But there were moments where I was like, oh, like that it.
Why are you tugging on these heartstrings?
It really tugged on them.
Okay.
And it made me feel, and it's even like through the prologue, like side stories they gave you, it just made everything else seem so awful because like you know that like, oh, they're gonna gain self-awareness that they're not real people, and it made it like more real by making it more clear that they were video game characters.
Gotcha.
And honestly, just that twist when she uses your real name, that got me.
I bet.
Like I was like,
that's crazy.
And I figured it out immediately. I think I said this already, but it was just like so well done. So, let me look up
I am curious as to how that moment would play out should you use your actual real name, like how you asked earlier. Like, what would she say? I bet you that's not even your real name. Felipe, I bet you that's not your real name. Your name's probably Felipe, huh? Dang it, you figured it out, you genius.
The Switch port also seems limited, like, because on the... Like, this is a game that's meant for you to play on PC deleting files. Right. And depending on what you delete, like, it can radically change, like, what's going on. I think you'll hit, like, a weird ending at some point anyway. But, like, if you delete a character early... Or just if you delete a file that's not meant to be deleted, like the game will acknowledge that.
I'm sure that there's a crazy sequence of events that has yet to be discovered that leads to something. Even if it's nothing substantial, I'm sure there's years from now we'll be like, yo, this guy figured it out. It turns out
that's still going on. Like
you're also self-aware, something dumb, but
like people are still online, like figuring out like doing like the Kojima level of connecting with this abandoned game with this, and that's it's good. Just it's a little above my head. When I'm like, who the heck is Delta? Like what? But it goes
in the
deep.
emails, man. Look through the emails.
I did, but there's ways to unlock more. And deleting certain things gets you other emails. But anyway, that's a game that you mind if I look up the developer?
Yeah,
sorry,
man,
this is Team Salvato. You should, as a listener or a co-host here, look forward to Team Salvato's next product. Because if it's anything like this, it's gonna, as the developer says, like use the medium and tell a story that only this medium can tell, as in video games.
Team Salvato, you have definitely sold me on their next product.
Whenever that is.
Maybe hey, it's soon, man. It's soon. All
right. Well, thank you for going through this with me. I just really had to tell you about this game.
No, man. You're like Bob Ross. You painted a perfect picture of what this game is.
This will be fun to edit. I don't know what's going to go in there.
Yeah, with you naming all these characters. I just put a little arrow. Like, when Syria, what did you say her name was? Sayori. Jesus.
I'm sure I'm saying it wrong or something.
Yeah, whatever. You can have just like a little arrow pointing or something. Whatever. We'll discuss this off here.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening, everyone. And keep it educated.
Keep it discussions. Everybody.
Don't forget to like and subscribe or find us on iTunes and Spotify. And leave a comment to keep it educated.